Welcome to episode 3 of the Toilet Paper Salesman Podcast. My name's Mike Berarkey. I'm your host, and I appreciate that you've joined us today. Today, we're going to be digging into leadership. But before that, if you get value out of this podcast, I would ask that you like and subscribe to the podcast so that you can get updates on new episodes, as well as to help spread the word. So we're going to dig into leadership today, and I'm going to start out with a story from my book about the best coach I've ever had. His name was Mr. Bright. When I was 7 or so, I wanted to join peewee football. My parents didn't want me to because, quite frankly, I was peewee. I was very small, and they were concerned about my safety. After being relentless and asking a million times, they decided to let me play. The issue that I had is I wasn't good, but my brother was really good, my older brother. When I came in to play, they had high expectations for me because of how good my brother was. When I started out, they had me at outside linebacker, starting outside linebacker. They quickly realized that I couldn't play. I went from starting outside linebacker to second team outside linebacker to second team inside linebacker. One day, we got put into a group. Mr. Henderson came over to us and said, "Okay, guys, you're in the scrub squad." Now, I can't imagine today that there would be such a team as the Scrub Squad. Fortunately for me, I was put into that group. Actually, it took off some of the pressure of living up to my brother's expectations. In the Scrub Squad, what they did is they taught us the basics of football, which I needed. What they did is they ended up putting me at right guard. I actually embraced this position. I remember getting the playbook and seeing the plays and where I block, and I worked really hard at it and became the starting right guard. And I'll remember the first game that I played starting right guard. One of the first plays, I clipped somebody. It was an obvious penalty, and the coaches didn't say a word because I think the coaches were probably like, well, at least he's out there hitting somebody. But from there, I refined the position, and I became really good at it. It was clear I was the starting guard, and I learned how to block well. If I would have been bigger, I would have loved to play guard in high school. As a matter of fact, in high school, I asked to play guard, and they all laughed at me because I was, 5'3" and a half, 140 pounds. But I still believe to this day that I could have been really effective at that position because of my technique was so good. And I learned that from my coach. The point of this is that we didn't have the best players. We won the championship, but we did have the best coach. And what the coach did is he figured out where his players were best and he put them there. And he allowed them to thrive in those positions. And he took his worst players and made them productive. The best leaders take their team, figure out who does what best, and they put them there. Sometimes we get locked into thinking somebody should be in a certain position and they're not good at that position. If you think about it, an all-pro center in the NFL would not make a very good running back. They're an all-pro center. So we've got to let them play center and let them thrive at it. For our teams at our workplace, that's what we need to do. We need to understand our employees and what they do best and stick them in that position and let them thrive, let them be successful. And then work on the areas where they're lacking. Let's talk about the traits of a great leader. What do great leaders do? Well, there's certain things they do, and there's certain things they don't do. The one thing that they do not do is they do not micromanage. Great leaders do not micromanage. They hire good people and they let them go to work. If you can't trust that your employee is going to be able to do the job, then you shouldn't have hired them in the first place. If you have to constantly be all over them, micromanaging what they do, then you're not going to be a great leader and you're going to actually stifle great employees. If I have to start thinking about if my employee isn't working or if they're not doing the job right, then I've got a real problem. I don't think about these things. I expect that my employees are out doing the job every day and I know they're doing the job. I don't have to worry about it and I don't certainly have to micromanage them. Great leaders don't give meaningless projects. They don't feel like they have to make sure that their employees are working every minute of the day. And so they don't pile things onto them that are unnecessary and unproductive. They're not slave drivers. They understand that people have a life and they have work. And if they allow them to work the way they work, they'll get the work done. If they can get the work done in 4 hours, let them get the work done in 4 hours. Do they have to work 8? Do you have to keep piling on busy work for them? And the answer is yes, they're going to work 8. If they're in your office, they're going to be there 8 hours. But give them a different project. Give them something they want to do fun. Give them something that they want to work on. Develop them, train them, help them. You don't have to keep piling on busy work to them to make sure that you get the full 8 hours out of it. Great leaders are always available to help. They have time for their employees. When your employee calls or somebody calls, pick up the phone. You're not too good to pick up the phone. A lot of higher managers, they don't pick up the phone. As a matter of fact, I get a lot of vendors and that say to me, wow, you always pick up your phone. Well, I don't always pick up my phone, but if I'm available and I can answer the phone, I answer the phone. I think it's important that you're available and you answer the phone, because a lot of times if you let those phone calls pile up and then you've got to call them back at the end of the day or whatever, and I know a lot of leaders do that, and that's okay too, as long as you have a system and as long as people know what to expect. A lot of leaders don't answer the phone. They're not available. They have a open door policy, except for the fact that it's not open. Don't say you have an open door policy. Have an open door policy. Just do it. Great leaders are humble. The only thing that my title gets me is the right to pick the place to go out to eat. And I'm serious about that. I love to go out to great restaurants. The fact that the title gets me to pick the place that I want to eat, I love that. I love that about my title. But everything else, having the title of Vice President of Sales, doesn't get me anything else in essence. Yeah, sure, I could try to throw around my weight. I don't do that. I work hard for my employees. I serve my employees and help them to be successful. And then I get to pick where we go to eat. That's pretty fantastic as far as I'm concerned. Great leaders are at the bottom of the pyramid, serving the employees and helping them to be successful both professionally and personally. Great leaders help their employees. They offer training. They coach and mentor them. They want them to do better than themselves even. A lot of leaders have a problem if their salespeople make more money than them. I'm thrilled if my salespeople make more money than me. I hope they make more money than me, because if they're making more money than me, then I am wildly successful as a manager, and they are going to be thrilled and happy as employees. You want your employees to succeed. You don't have to worry about if they surpass you in some way, and you shouldn't worry about it. You should be overjoyed in it and grateful in it. Great leaders want their employees to be independent of themselves. They want them to get to the point where they can make decisions on their own and they could be self-sufficient, so that the leader doesn't have to do all the work. And when you hire an employee in the beginning, it's a lot of work to get them up to speed. You're constantly working with them and helping them and training them and doing all the work. The bottom line is that you want to get them to the point where they're independent. And if you can achieve that, that is success in management. I have a saying. The first time I'll say this to one of my employees, they kind of look at me cockeyed. There's a point to it. Just because I tell you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it. They'll look at me and say, what? And I say, just because I tell you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it. In other words, if you think I'm wrong, if you have a problem with it, you're on the street, you know the customer, you know the situation. If you think I'm wrong, then you need to come and tell me that. Tell me, we need to talk about this further. Obviously, be respectful, but you need to be able to come to me and tell me you think I'm wrong. And then we'll talk about it. And you'll say, well, okay, why do you think I'm wrong? Well, if you do this or that, then I think the customer's going to be more angry, or we may lose the business. And we can talk through those issues. And maybe we'll do what the employee is asking, and maybe we won't. But the bottom line is we've had that discussion, and those discussions are really important, because sometimes the leader's not connected. Sometimes I'm not always fully engaged in that situation, and I'll make a judgment call. But the salesperson who's involved in that situation knows better, and they have a bad feeling about what I've just told them to do. And then they'll sometimes do it. And then I'll say, why did you do that? And they'll go, well, you told me to do it. And I go, well, just because I told you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it. Use your own judgment. And if you have an issue with it, be able to come to me. It's an important point that great leaders do. They don't have to always be right. It's like CNI dogs. CNI dogs are trained to be completely obedient, except for one thing. They are also trained, they have an inherent trait of being able to disobey an owner if the owner wants them to do something that's going to put them in danger. In other words, if the owner is telling them to cross the street, but there's a car coming, the dog will not obey the owner. That is what I'm talking about. And that is a great CNI dog. And that is a great leader who allows their employees to challenge them and who actually listens to the challenge and makes changes. The best leaders take time to understand their employees and get to know their employees. They take interest in their lives. They're concerned for their families. They are there for them when they need them. Family situations happen. They have compassion on them. If they need some time off for something, they allow them time off. The best leaders show appreciation. They're appreciative of their employees and everything that they do. Sometimes great leaders will surprise their employees with special treats. They'll buy them sports tickets. They'll do a cookout. They'll do a barbecue. They'll give them merchandise. Whatever it is, Little things, gift cards, just to show that when they give that little extra effort that you appreciate it. Do you have to do it all the time? No. There are times when it's appropriate to give that little extra something to your employees so they know that you appreciate them. The best leaders correct with kindness. When something happens, if something goes wrong, if the sales numbers are down, the best leaders correct with kindness. So they show them, hey, what's going on with this account? Why are we off in this? What's happening? We understand. Let's work on a strategy to get that business back. You're not harsh on them. You're not hammering them. They know they're down in these accounts. And if they don't know they're down in these accounts, that's a different problem. But a lot of times the employee knows that there's something wrong. Maybe they're afraid to address it with you because they don't know how you're going to react. But I say if you have an open enough relationship, they'll come to you and say, hey, I'm having an issue in this account. We're down in these items. How can we get this back? And allow the leader to actually coach them through that process and help them to get back to business. The best leaders relate with every employee. Who's the most important employee in your company? The answer is every single one of them. There was a restaurant owner who was driving down the street one day and he saw this truck, and the truck was so clean. It was sparkling clean. It was so clean that impressed on the restaurant owner enough that he decided to call the company to do business. He called the company. They sat down and had a meeting. They ended up doing business. And he told the company owner, the reason why I'm doing business with you is because I saw your truck and your employee did such a great job cleaning your truck. It was so clean. I figured that your company must be excellent and I need an excellent company. And it ended up bringing millions of dollars of business from this restaurant chain into this distributor because of one employee who took pride in their job and cleaned the trucks extra well. Every single employee is important in your company. Every single employee is a reflection of your company and how they act and how they treat the customers. Every single one. So we need to treat every single one as important as every other one. Great leaders make the workplace fun. You got to be light. Work is hard. We work hard. It's a tough business. There's crazy things that happen all the time. But it's up to the leader to set a tone of having fun. Have a light workplace. Be joking around. It's okay. Create a fun atmosphere. Set up games, set up incentives, help make the workplace fun so that they don't dread coming into work every day, that they look forward to it. Your employees spend a lot of time at the workplace. The more fun you make it, the more they're going to want to come and the better employees they're going to be. The greatest leaders, when the going gets tough, the leader gets going. I told you in a previous podcast about when we purchased Huff Paper and how crazy it was. We took that business over the 1st of December. We started making deliveries. The week of Christmas was the first delivery and the week of New Year's was the second delivery that we made to the Huff customer. So it was bedlam. It was crazy. We're all underwater. Like we have an incentive trip called Journeys. And that is usually taken in January. This is 2021. We actually went to Cabo for our incentive trip. And yes, it was during COVID, but we went. It was a great trip. Nobody got sick. I was scheduled to go on this trip, but I'm looking at this. I've got my employees that are underwater. What would it look like if I would have went to Cabo and be sitting on the beach drinking margaritas and I've got my employees underwater in the business trying to make the transition? How would they have felt? So guess what? I didn't go on the trip. And it was a great decision because I was so busy that week trying to dig everybody out. And I know, even though none of my employees said anything, that they appreciated that I stuck in there and I didn't take that trip. Great leaders dig in and do the work when the work's got to get done. They don't just sit back in their office and let the whole world explode around them and do nothing about it. They are jumping in and helping to make it happen. Do you want to be a great leader? Then you've got to take action. Start today. You have one day to be a great leader. Make small changes. Work to be a great leader. If it doesn't work today, you've got tomorrow. It's a fresh start. I guarantee you, step by step, if you put these into practice, you become a great leader. Your employees are going to thank you. That's all I have today. If this was valuable, like and subscribe to the podcast. Until next time, who says selling toilet paper isn't glamorous? We sell toilet paper. That's what we do. Thanks a lot and have a great day.
Mm-hmm.